A very good question, ma'am. See, whenever Excel is a kind of non-indexed database, because whatever you store in Excel, we normally use per sheet, a database per sheet. Now all these sheets are relevant. Even I can pull data from the other Excel sheet also, but these are not secured enough, because I couldn't have restrictions, user right restriction on Excel. Let's say if you and me, we are working on let's say banking records of Bank of America, right? So now what happens? Lina ma'am updates in her good day. I update in my own good day, and all these record updations are not traced enough or not credential dependent. So Excel don't know whenever Ravindra Pandey is updating, whenever Lina ma'am is updating those things. So for for building that traceability, for building that backup restore mechanism, for building that we have to revert back to the last version and so on and so forth, I use certain database software. So database softwares make us more secure, more dependable, and more integrated in a scenario. When you see this video, you'll get to understand how we even create a table in Excel. But yes, these are basically ER diagram normally created for the database designing. Database is more secure, more coherent, more concise in a way, and it's more dependable from the business point of view, because Excel is for personal use is okay. If I'm the only person who is using data, then Excel is the best way to use, right? But if I'm sharing this Excel sheet with anybody else, if I'm sharing this data with anybody else, which are supposed to update, then it becomes cumbersome, right? Because I don't know whenever the other person have updated it, what he have updated. I couldn't go and look at all the Excel sheet, right? Whenever something changed. So for those kind of scenario, we use certain dependable solution, dependable software solution, and these systems are database systems, database servers.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Perfect.
No problem. So let's try to understand how we build this relationship between different entities. Okay. Could you see these gentlemen's face?
Yes.
My name's Taylor and I'm from Lucid Chart. Today you'll be learning all about entity.
Again, Lucid Charts. So this is also open system, so you can try and play around it. But yes, not need right now. I want you to have just understanding of these things, because if there's a need, we'll do these things afterwards. So whenever you might get selected for a company where these organizations use SQL, right? So we have a detailed look of these things, and we might have hands-on experience. Right now, just try to understand these big words. You call entity relationship diagram. In normal English, it doesn't mean anything. But to IT person, they can go on bragging about this for hours together. Could you understand me? What I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Anybody have any confusion at this moment? So into a career of IT person, so we need to learn these words, right? So we need to learn these couple of nomenclature they use day in, day out. So these are something like that. Just have a look at this.
Relationship diagrams, or ERDs. We're going to start off by discussing a high-level overview, and then together we'll dive in and build an example together, complete with entities, attributes, relationships, and cardinality. By the end of this video, you'll be able to build an entire entity relationship diagram from scratch. Have you ever wondered why you get an error message telling you that your ideal Twitter handle is already taken? Or how Amazon can keep track of so many different orders and customers and products? The answers to these questions lies within the creation of a database, which, in other words, is a collection of information that is organized so data can be easily stored, managed, updated, and retrieved. Now, there's a lot of moving information in a database, and understanding how the many elements of a database interact with each other can be difficult to grasp. Engineers need a visual way to understand how all these separate elements are related to each other and how they're working together. To show this, they build entity relationship diagrams. So let's talk about how you're going to make these ER diagrams. You can draw them out with pen and paper, but it's going to be way easier for you to use a diagramming tool. Today, I'm going to use an easy-to-use tool called Lucid Chart, and you can too, for free actually. By clicking on the top right corner here, you can access Lucid Chart's website, enter your email address, and have a free account in just a few seconds. That way, you can follow along with me and continue building your own ER diagrams as well. Before we can create an actual ERD, we need to better understand the individual components of the entity relationship diagram. And this is going to start with entities, which are an object, such as a person, place, or thing, to be tracked in the database. For example, in the case of buying something on Amazon, let's say a Snuggie, an entity could be a customer, an order, and lastly, we can't forget our Snuggies, the product. Now, each one of these entities is going to have what we call attributes, which are various properties or traits. In this case, under the customer entity, we have a customer ID, first name, last name, street, city, zip, and phone. It's important to remember that the entities in your database will be the rows, and that the attributes in your database will be depicted as the columns. Now, we have the different entities and the different attributes on the screen here. But now let's talk about the relationships that exist between these different entities. The relationships describe how these entities will interact with each other, if at all. And you do that by drawing a line in between them. So when I draw a line in between these particular elements, I'm showing that there is some sort of interaction or connection in some way. Now that we have our relationships in place, you'll see some funky notation attached to these lines. This, in fact, is called the cardinality, which further defines the relationship in a numerical context, particularly within minimums and maximums. So for example, here on this right side, you can see some different types of cardinality we have in ER diagrams. We have one, many, one and only one, zero or one or many, zero or many. Now don't be afraid if this isn't making sense quite yet. We're going to walk through some examples that'll help you understand this perfectly. So let's talk about the relationship and the cardinality that exists between a customer and the order. Now the best way to do this is to think about it logically. We have to think about what is the minimum number of orders that a customer could have, and what's the maximum number of orders that a customer could have. So let's start with minimums. What is the minimum number of orders that a customer could have? Well, a customer could exist, but he or she could have 0 orders. So to show that over here, we'll have that 0 sign. Now we have to think about the maximum. What are the maximum number of orders that a customer could have? Well, as you probably already know, a customer can have infinite orders. In the case of Snuggies, you can never just have one Snuggie. So to show that, we'll use this 0 or many crow's foot notation. Now let's talk about the minimum and maximum relationship between orders and customers. So we ask ourselves the same questions. What is the minimum amount of customers that an order may have? And what's the maximum number of customers that an order may have? Now, a specific order can only have one and only one customer. Well, you can imagine the confusion that could come if the same specific order had lots of customers. So in this case, there can be only one and only one number of customers to an order. And we can show that using this sign here. So now let's talk about the relationship or cardinality between orders and products. So we'll ask ourselves the same question. A certain order can have how many products? Well, for an order to exist, it has to have one product. But a lot of different products can be comprised of that order. So to show that on our diagram, we'll change this notation. Now we ask ourselves that question in reverse. A product can be a part of how many orders? Well, a product could be a part of no orders, but it also could be a product of many orders. So we're going to use this 0 or many notation on our diagram. So now you've built your entire ER diagram, and we've built something small here, but now you have the foundation and framework that you need to build complex, complete entity relationship diagrams. Although this can seem a little bit overwhelming at first, just be sure to walk yourself through that logic, and you'll be able to build entire complex ERDs. You'll also see on this diagram that there are some unfamiliar objects such as PK and FK, which refer to primary keys and foreign keys, something that we're going to be covering in a video coming soon, so stay tuned. Additionally, if you need to actually have this diagram to be database ready, you can use the import and export features of Lucidchart to have all of that done automatically for you. Using the export feature, you'll have that code automatically generated for you and exported to the database management system you're using. Thanks for watching this tutorial on ER diagram.
Any questions at this moment?
I'm good.
Hi, my
Okay.
name's Taylor. And
Wait a minute. There's another part to it, so let's have a look at that, and then we can discuss this thing.
I'm going to walk you through some advanced ERD concepts. Today, we're going to be going over primary keys, foreign keys, bridge tables, and then really understanding how ER diagrams help you see exactly what's going on in your database. So let's start where we left off, with our very simple diagram from the previous tutorial. So we've got entities for customer, order, and product, and the correct cardinality between. You'll notice that next to each attribute is the word key. This column is here so we can distinguish certain attributes as either primary keys or foreign keys. Let's start with primary keys. This is probably easiest to understand if we step out of the diagram into the table it represents. Remember, each entity in your diagram represents a table within your database. So let's look at the customer entity as a table with rows and columns. We've got all these different instances of the customer here. And if you're Amazon or something, you've got millions of customers all within this table. Wouldn't it be nice if you could use a single trigger to quickly and accurately distinguish who's who in this massive list? That's where a primary key comes in. A primary key is an attribute or field that uniquely identifies every record in a certain table. And since a single attribute can accomplish all that, it makes sense that you'll just need one primary key per entity. So for this customer table, the primary key is going to be a value that makes it so that this customer is unlike any other customer in our table. For one of these attributes to qualify, there are a few rules. First, a primary key has to be unique so that it identifies only one record in your table. Second, it needs to be never changing. It'd be pretty difficult to keep an accurate record of your customers if you're using an attribute that might not stay consistent. And finally, a primary key needs to be never null. That just means there wouldn't be an occasion where the value could be left blank. So let's look at a specific customer, like John here, and determine what data might uniquely identify him. Well, you can't rely on names because two totally different customers could very easily share the same first and last name. There's a John Smith here and a John Smith here, but they're two completely different customers. So it's not a unique record in this table. You can't even rely on an address because you could have two separate customers living at the same place. Or a customer could move and then their address changes. So an address isn't unique and breaks the rule of never changing. Same thing for a phone number. So that leaves us with customer ID. By design, any sort of ID is typically programmed to increment for each addition to the table. This customer signs up and is assigned customer ID 30016. Then this customer signs up and is assigned 30017, and so on. You can see how customer ID passes all our rules. John's customer ID will completely identify him as a particular instance in our database, and that value won't ever be repeated in this table. So we're going to make that our primary key. Here's something interesting to think about while we're on this topic. Have you ever tried to create a username for an account and then later wanted to change your username to something else because it was hard to remember or stupid or something, but then you can't because the site won't let you? Well, that's probably because your username is being used as a primary key in that site's database, and primary keys can never change. That's how the site is linking you, the customer, to your account. They don't let you change that primary key because their system relies on it for accurate records. Or how about when you're setting up a new account and you try to create a username, but get an error message saying that it's already taken? Again, this could be happening because the username is being used as the primary key, and a primary key can't be repeated. In our example, though, we're just using a randomly assigned customer ID number as our primary key. We know this will always be unique and never repeated. So let's jump back to our diagram and note this by putting PK next to our customer ID. And I'll go ahead and quickly clear out all this other text to make things clearer. Now let's apply those same rules to find primary key for our other entities. Let's quickly jump into the order table that this order entity represents and zero in on a specific instance. Here, it looks like our customer, John, placed an order to go to this address and it's shipped at this time. Looking at the data, what could be our primary key? We already know names and addresses are no good, and ship date isn't going to work either. At the exact same time, so that's not a unique attribute. It's pretty clear that order number is the primary key. So we put PK next to that attribute in our diagram. And finally, we can look at the table that this product entity represents. Let's say our customer, John, purchased this product here, a beautiful Snuggie. You know by now that product ID is going to be the primary key in this table. So we note that in our diagram too. Each of these primary keys is unique, never changing, and never null. So you probably noticed that I'm using a diagramming software to modify these ERDs, but just know that the same concepts apply if you're drawing them out on pen and paper. But if you want to make things easier on yourself, you can sign up for the diagramming software that I'm using, for free actually. It's called Lucidchart. All you have to do is pause the video, click on the card in the top right corner, and sign up for an account. All it takes is an email address, and you can follow along with me. So now that we have our primary keys nailed down, let's talk about foreign keys. A foreign key is the same as a primary key, but just located in a foreign place. Maybe you have a primary key in one entity, but it'd be really helpful to pull that data into another entity. That's where you get a foreign key. And we want to make note of these foreign keys so we can better understand how our entities relate to one another. Let's see how this plays out in our diagram. We've already established customer ID as the primary key for the customer entity, but that same attribute is also over here in the order entity. Why? Because for each order we record, we want to know exactly which customer placed that order. The order entity is simply referencing the customer ID from the customer entity. That makes it a foreign key here, so we'll mark it as such. And we can further show this relationship in our diagram by adjusting this relationship to line up with the primary and foreign keys. Just move these crow's feet to line up with the PK and FK attributes. It reinforces the fact that this foreign key in the order entity is referencing the primary key of the customer entity. Let's review how this foreign key works by looking at it in the order table. So here are all our orders. If we look at a specific order, it has a customer ID of 30016. This is a foreign key because it references the primary key in the customer table. Now we know exactly which customer we're dealing with when we look at this specific order. So John made this order here, but look farther down. The same customer ID is repeated because John placed another order. Unlike a primary key, foreign keys don't have to be unique. They can be repeated in the table. If John's an avid shopper, his customer ID is going to be repeated a lot. Another difference between primary and foreign keys is that there can be multiple foreign keys in one entity. Let's say for each order, we also want to know what product is being sold. We'd add product ID to our table, and this is what it would look like in our diagram. We just add another field, type in product ID, and since product ID is a primary key over here, that makes it a foreign key in this entity. Now we have two foreign keys in our order table. There's also something called a composite primary key. Composite primary keys are used when two or more attributes are necessary to uniquely identify every record in a table. So let's say we created a shipment entity, and it's got these attributes here. And then let's take a look at what the corresponding table might look like in order to explain this better. Let's say John ordered a regular Snuggie and then a zebra pattern Snuggie. It's all one order, but they're getting sent in two different shipments. When we look at these two rows and each of these attributes, we wouldn't be able to rely on any single one to give us a unique record. The product number is duplicated when someone else buys that same zebra pattern Snuggie. So it's not a unique record in this table. An order could be parsed into a couple different shipments, like John's was. So order number is also not unique. Charge card time would be duplicated if someone else pays for their shipment at the exact same time. And same for packing time and ship date. All not unique. So it doesn't look like any of these attributes will give us the primary key we're looking for. But what if we took two of these attributes and combined them to create a new unique value, like product ID and order number? Take those two values for any instance, combine them together, and you've got a value that won't be repeated. That's a composite primary key. Now the primary key for this shipment is different than the primary key for this shipment. You could technically call this a compound key because we're using two foreign keys, but usually people just say composite key in the umbrella term. Anyway, jumping back over to our diagram, you note a composite primary key with multiple PK marks. That doesn't mean there are two primary keys. It means that both of these attributes are needed to create a composite primary key. A couple rules here when making these. 1, use the fewest number of attributes as possible. 2, don't use attributes that are apt to change because that can make things messy. And you might ask yourself, why not just create a shipping ID attribute so we don't have to deal with this scenario? Well, you certainly could, and that's totally valid. It's actually quite a debate among some people if you should even bother with composite primary keys.
Yes, I believe that's enough of complications. So basically, we create this key to referencing different tables, different sheets in my Excel sheet. If I want to refer Excel sheet as in my database, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So let's not ponder too much on those things. If you have any questions, I'll take that now. I know it's a bit confusing because it's altogether a different, way of using data or using the database or using computer as a storing my information and segregating it the way I like, right? So I'm trying to design a database rather than an application. Till now, I was mostly interested in designing applications or building the vision, taking the vision, building requirement, and trying to have a bird's eye view for the application. Now this is in depth. So there are so many parts to an application like database, like other system coordinations, inter-system updates, clock-based update, or time-based update, and so on and so forth. So there are various parts of the system which we need to understand. And as an analyst, we don't do all. We just do few. So that's why HLD is really important. This ER diagram is a part of low-level diagramming. Okay, so you are not at all responsible or going to do ER diagramming unless you start working with a specific data science project or too much data analysis in depth. So that's a kind of, I'll say, 10 years down the line for your career. So let's not bang our head on this thing. That's why I stopped that video. I'll share that video. If you want to have a look, please go and have a look, no problem. But don't stress on this thing because this is good to have, not necessary to have. What is necessary to have? To understand what analyst does. What we do, we create the vision. We understand the vision by meeting, greeting, and online meet, greet, and all those things. We create the vision. We create requirements. What are shared with me? We get them approved. We convert those requirements to a functionality, high-level functionality. We depict this functionality, these requirements in use case diagram, in high level diagram. We compile or we collect the complete data in a document called SRS. Could you understand this? This is what the analysts normally do, and this is what we need to stick to. Now, if there's an organization in Timbuktu, they like to use something like mind map. Yes, we can use. They want to use something like SWOT analysis. Yes, we do. We know what is SWOT analysis. If they want to stress on ER diagram or they want you to create a mota ER diagram, then okay, we will spend some time. We'll learn it in depth. But right now, we just need to understand. If somebody asks, so could you draw ER diagram? I'm not a database designer, but yes, I know what is a ER diagram. So what is a ER diagram? We're talking about entity relationship. What are the entities? A cell is an entity. A record or a row is an entity. A column or type of data is an entity. A table itself is an entity. Many databases are various entities. So everything is distinguishable within a given database is an entity. Does that make sense? Any confusion at this moment?
We are good.
I know it's too much because that's how this IT works, right? Whenever we try to define this IT working, they kill you with this nomenclature. But yes, this is what we are going to learn, and I think this is the most critical part of it, critical part of the job interview. If you're in sync with the interviewer, he'll clear the interview within first 10 minutes. Believe me, if you can throw this really good words, and if you know the background of it, that's more than enough. That's what we are going to prepare it for. Okay, sure. I believe any other question for me at this moment? Could we move on?
I'm good. Yes,
sir. You can move on.
Great. Now it's a kind of revision. We are at the end of a business analysis capsule. Then we'll start quality assurance, quality control, agile, and scrum. Right? Now these are the quicker ones. These are a kind of environmental factors we are talking about as far as BA role. Now we understand what BA does. Now we need to understand or leverage the organization with you, right? So how are we going to do it? We're trying to understand BA. So let's revise BA again. So who can tell me what BA does day in, day out? Who wants to tell me?
I can try.
Yeah, please go ahead. No problem. And let the kid speak or, let the kid, shout. Don't worry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You can understand.
So,
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, so the basically BA takes the vision from the client or the stakeholder, and they convert it into the requirements using various tools and techniques like interviews, workshops, data
Right.
modeling,
Okay.
prototyping. They use all these things for requirement elicitation, and then they work with then they create the SRS, system requirement specification,
Uh-huh.
through which they help the technical teams like the architects and all. Just a sec.
Perfect. Perfect, ma'am. Perfect. Great. Anybody else want to explain again? Madhuri, ma'am, could you please? Pavni, ma'am.
So can I?
Yeah, please go ahead, ma'am.
Actually, I will try to explain. I don't know how far I can. Uh, Actually, the BA will take the vision from the clients and they
Right.
plan by using this SRS requirements
No, no,
and
no, 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 sir. Vision is not collected in SRS. Vision is collected in something like, minutes of meeting, or you can collect in an Excel sheet, or you can collect in a notepad or a voice recorder also. Vision elicitation is what we convert as vision to requirement or to functionalities, right? So after elicitation, we start filling in SRS. SR is a finalized document. SR is not requirement gathering document. But, am I able to explain to you?
yeah.
SRS
It
is a
is
result
not.
of a graduation. For graduation, you use notebook. Your notebook is not
Yes,
your certificate, right? Yeah, it can
yes.
basically support the certificate, because that's how you can see an auditory proof. ये notebook जो मैंने notes निकाले थे, ये notes मैंने इसलिए
उसके ना
निकाले थे.
प्रियल दे देगी वो.
Yes. So this is a part of process. So we need to understand what are the part of process and what are the result of process. SRS is a result of a process, right? That's a certification. Please go ahead, ma'am. Please start again.
Yeah, as a BA, we will take the requirements and collect the requirements from
Right.
the PO,
Mm-hmm.
and we will plan in the process of elicitation
Uh-huh.
and analyze them into models,
Perfect.
requirements, with the business rules, and
Great.
develop them with the development with the help develop with the help of the developers, I mean programmers,
Uh-huh.
and document it, and we deploy with the user acceptance, and we will verify with tests, and
Mm-hmm.
at last we will evaluate the satisfaction of the uh,
Customer
customers
client
and
as right.
client.
Perfect,
That's
perfect, ma'am.
what we do.
You explained the complete relevance with the software development life cycle. That's what we call SDLCs. Okay, so that's
Oh,
really great. That's a complete in-depth analysis of what business analysis does. Right? Great, great. Anybody else want
now
to go
what
ahead?
I
No.
said I can use to explain what a BA role, right?
Come again, please, ma'am. I couldn't hear you
Uh,
clearly.
now what I explained, I can
Uh,
use these words
that's right.
to
Those are perfect words, right, ma'am?
okay, thank you.
And SRS is what we do at the end of the analysis process. So it's a kind of
Yeah,
certification we create for others to use, right? सर्टिफिकेट
yes.
क्यों बनाते हैं अपन लोग, क्योंकि बाकी लोगों ने देखना चाहिए मैंने कोर्स किया करके. So SR is kind of certificate of the whole analysis process. Does that make sense, ma'am?
Okay, yes sir.
Sure, no problem. Anybody else want to go ahead?
Yeah, I would say as a BA, we collect the requirement and then we detail the requirement. Then we
Wow.
elicitate the requirement tools using like, high level, use case diagram or HDL.
Right, ma'am.
And our main primary, our objective should be, helping the business with a cost effective solution. So in order
Perfect.
to do that, we have to understand their business first. They
That's
understand the
right.
need first, and then we should be able to translate them into applications.
Perfect.
And these needs, we can arrange it in the order in the using use case diagram and HDL so that we can translate them into application.
Perfect. You explained it really correctly. Yes, we need to understand the environment also. So environment and background of the business thought process is important. It's a key role, because at the end of the day, if the customer is satisfied, he'll pay in full and as early as possible, right?
Unless
So
we
this is a kind
understand
of the way
business,
business works. Sorry, go ahead, ma'am, please.
unless we understand the business need, we
Exactly.
cannot be, going further anyway. Gathering requirement is different, but understanding that business is the key.
Is a crucial part. Very rightly said, ma'am.
Sorry,
Could we all
sorry, mid
understand?
of Leena ma'am and Ravi sir. Leena ma'am, did you remember that you said one word long ago, previous classes, and it is a kind of bridging the gap between IT and the
Yes.
business
Yes,
using data
coordinating.
He's
Yeah,
analysis
like
that's right.
either a
to assess
translator or
processes.
his role is kind of a bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, you said that. I remember those words.
Yeah. If
Exactly.
you
No, this is how we learn, and this is how we grow, right? So understanding and expressing your vision is the most important part, because if you can remember that word called coordinator, background of the business vision, business processes, it helps you a lot whenever you're discussing business analysis role. And we need to understand and use such word, please. Okay. Anybody else want to go ahead?
Sir, I
Yeah,
want
please.
to explain. Sir, a business analyst interact with the business stakeholders and understand their problems and needs and gather the
Great.
document and analyze the business and need and requirement. The
Perfect.
business analyst it solve the business problem as per the need of the business.
Perfect, ma'am. Okay, and we author SRS so that we collect all these information at one place and present it to the business team for the approval and the next steps, right? The way we say, we hand over the SRS to the development team and they start constructing the product, creating the product, and so on and so forth. Okay. Yes,
Yes, sir.
that's great. I believe we are on mark. Okay, let's go ahead. So we understood the BA role. So what BA does? BA is basically helping the business for a cost-effective implementation of a technology solution. These are heavy words, but these are used in various publications like IIBAs or PMIs. So we will read this thing. So if you need such, if you could use, well and good, don't worry. But just remember these words. So a business analyst primary objective is helping business helping businesses to implement the technology solutions cost effectively, precisely determining the requirement of a project, program, or a support, and communicate them early with the key stakeholders so that we remove all the confusion, we remove all the extravagant things we've added. Because when we understand somebody else confusion, requirement, let's say if Lina ma'am tell Dipti ma'am to purchase a sari. So what Dipti ma'am first think, the most costliest sari, right? If she don't know Lina ma'am. Now whenever you started interacting with the Lina ma'am, you know what color she like, what type of sari she like, and so on and so forth. So I zero down the vision. I get the approval within the due course of time, so I can concentrate my effort on whatever exactly is needed, and I remove all those value add, I remove those all flora and fauna, and I'll stick to the actual requirement. So I discuss with the stakeholder day by day. So the solution, the technology solution should be cost effective, efficient, and should create customer satisfaction, or clearly guide the key stakeholders toward the exact solution they need, right? And that's what the business analysis role is. The business analyst should be able to create solution to the problems for the business as a whole. Now, what does this as a whole means? At a bird's eye view, at a superficial level, or at a larger level, rather than going into the nitty-gritty. We are not a technocrats. We are business people. We are coordinators between business and technical teams. So what we should do, we should understand the vision, we should create the requirement. We have to create some cost-effective solution, and we need to communicate this cost-effectiveness to the business visionary who are given us a vision, and to the development team also, so that they can implement these things, they can pursue these things to the efficient level of business solutioning. Okay, we should be able to understand the business need of a customer and should be able to translate them to the application and operational requirement, right? We've seen how requirements are getting transferred from the vision step by step, and then they get transferred to the functional skill with the help of solid analytical and product management skill. What is project? Basically, it's a product visioning skill rather than a management skill, right? Let's try to understand what BA does at Google. Google is the high
Raviji, we lost you. Hello?
Yes.
analysis requirement.
Raviji,
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Till now we lost you, sir. We didn't
Oh,
able
sorry.
to hear you.
So Google analysts are the highest paid analysts. You know Google as a company, right?
yes.
It's one of the major band. The search engine we use Google, the Chrome is a product, right? And so on and so forth. So let's try to understand how analysts at Google works. Okay, I have a video for that. I need to search for that now. Okay, life of analyst at Google, right? It's just a 2 minutes video, which will give you an idea how these guys work at Google, what they do day in day out. Where is that? Okay. This is Google campus.
My name is Rachel Colson, and I am a senior product analyst.
Hi, my name is Wei Yang. I'm a product analyst.
My name is Dan Blum. I'm a business analyst.
Yes, these are all business analysts. So product, analyst is a business analyst. Data analyst is also a business analyst. So if somebody says otherwise, you can show them this video. This is available at Google and as well as YouTube. Okay, so let's have a look at it.
A business analyst analyzes data to find different insights that will drive a business impact.
And we analyze products and we drive decisions around those products.
And figure out how to make a product better, what users like.
We really want to understand our users, and your main role is to make sure we have a really strong culture around data and using data to inform and drive our decisions.
We're all very passionate about data. We get very excited about looking at a new data source.
There are just a million questions that you have to ask before you launch and after you launch. What are we trying to make happen? How can we prove it quantitatively? And are we confident in that?
Right now, I'm in the YouTube data science team. We guide all of YouTube on things like product direction, through experimentation and analysis.
We want to make developers successful. So we look at what developers think success looks like and try to help them achieve that.
Being a product analyst at Google is unpredictable, but it's always exciting.
Google has a unique scale, which is very global, which you're not going to get anywhere else. So even if you make a small improvement, when you multiply that by a billion, that can definitely be worth your time.
To have a say in the direction that data science is going is something that really sets apart that experience at Google over other companies.
Google encourages you to, be open with your manager and have your manager support you in looking for something that is going to be fulfilling for you professionally and personally.
Google is set up as a company to allow people to take risks. In some cases, you're taking a chance at looking at that data when the business or the rest of the world thinks it's geeky or ridiculous. If we never try, we'll never know.
So excited? Who all are excited?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
so that's what we do basically as an analyst, right? So
Yes.
what are the things we do? We understand the requirement of the business. We analyze the information. We are communicating with broad range of people. So calling, setting up meeting is an integral part of our job. we do documents, we do collect findings, we document these findings, we evaluate and implementing the finest possible solution, the cost effective solution, the effective or solution can achieve in the shortest span of time, and so on and so forth, right? In a sense, business analyst involves the navigation responsible for the reaching the end destination, which implies a satisfying solution for a business problem. Okay, now there's another video, a day in a BA life. So how BA life is get planned in a normal job. We've seen the top of the thing, right? Now let's try to understand how a normal BA works. Again, our same great person who have taught us how to gather requirement will share his idea of business analyst. Okay, let's try to understand.
So you want to know what a day in the life of a business analyst looks like? Well, I'm glad you asked. What is going on, guys? This is Faizan. Welcome to the channel. I am a business analyst myself, and I'm here to tell you guys what a day in the life of a BA looks like. So I've got my whiteboard behind me. If you guys do enjoy this video, please don't forget to make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to the channel as I do post a lot of content. So with that being said, let's get started. So let me start by saying this. No 2 days are going to be exactly the same, okay? And the biggest reason of how each day is really going to depend on where you are in a certain project. So if you're at the beginning, middle, or end, that will determine how your day is going to go. So when we talk about a day in the life of BA, we're talking about where in the project are. Okay, so let's say this. If you are in the beginning phase, so let's say a project has been assigned to you, okay? If that is the case, then my day would then consist of, and again, you could have multiple projects assigned to you. Probably 1 to 3, not more than 3 would usually, and it's usually you're hovering more around 1 or 2 or even 1. But once you're assigned a project, let's assume you...
We'll start with one project only, okay? He's trying to exaggerate the thing.
One project. Let's assume that is where you're at. You get assigned the project, and now it depends, obviously, on the methodology. Is your project going to be agile? Is your project going to be waterfall? And again, if you don't know what those, what the difference between those two methodologies is, go ahead and look that up. We can also talk about it in a different video. But for the purposes of this one, it depends on the methodology. So if we do go with agile, which is obviously more has to do with sprints and whatnot, that will trigger me to, start at the beginning of the sprint. I'm working with my PM to do all of that stuff. But once I get the project assigned to me, the first thing I'm doing, irrespective of the methodology, is I'm going ahead and I'm setting up meetings or meetings with my stakeholders. Okay, what are my stakeholders? Well, those are the business folks. So remember, I told you that the IT, that the BA is the middleman between the IT and the business. So remember, I told you that. And because the business and the IT can't talk in the same language, that is where the BA comes in. So I'm going to need to go to the business and get those requirements, okay? And if you guys want to know more about that, check out my other videos. And once I get those requirements, then I can go ahead and translate that and hand it off to the developers, the IT department. So I'm going ahead and I'm setting up these meetings. So this is what my day would consist of. I'm going to go ahead, okay, find out who are my business stakeholders on this project, what this project's about. After I found out all of the detail, then I'm going to go ahead and set up those meetings, okay? Once I've done that, now this is where the methodologies come, okay? Because remember, I told you, if we are doing Agile, we've got a sprint-based type of route that we go in. And if we're doing waterfall, then it is more documentation, okay? Heavier on documentation. So depending on these methodologies, which one the projects could go into, and it could be a hybrid, it could be, then I'm usually going ahead, and again, let's say I do Agile, I'm going ahead and, talking with my PM, setting up, the sprint. We need to, obviously, I need to set up my meetings my grooming sessions, my discovery sessions. She or he needs to do the planning. So going through the entire cycle. If it's just a waterfall project, then obviously after I've gathered the requirements, I can go ahead and start documenting the BRD. So like I said, all of these things come into play in a given day. Now you've got 8 hours in a day, so you're not going to be able to do everything. So that is why I say a day in the life of a BA is really going to heavily depend on where you are in the project. So elaborating on the where you are in the project is going to depend on what you do in a given day. Let me talk real quickly about the SDLC, which is the Software Development Lifecycle. That is what that stands for. And in the SDLC, we've got all of these steps, okay? It goes from planning to analysis to design, implement to test, and to maintain. So this is going to be where you're going to be in a project, okay? At any given time, you're going to be in one of these, okay? So if you're in one of these, depending on where you are, you're doing different things. The requirements gathering that I talked to you guys about, more so in the analysis part right here, the design part, like it'll take place around there. And then if you are, after you've handed off the requirements and it's being implemented by the developers, then they would need your help if they need to clarify some requirements. So depending on where you are, that's what really is going to be part of your day. So again, for the BA, it's going to heavily depend on where they are in the cycle of the project. Okay, that's number one. And for number two, if you are not, talking about a project, then a lot of this other stuff could be administrative. You could be just, setting up a bunch of meetings. You could be, planning with your team, and then et cetera. So a lot of this, a lot of what a BA does is really going to heavily be influenced by this. Okay, and again, like I said, this is only for one project that we talked about. Now imagine and extrapolate that to, let's say, like 3 projects, and 3 projects, I can spell, where you are in different phases. So one project you're in planning, another project you're in design, another project you're in test. So think about that. You're going to have 3 separate meetings in 3 separate areas. You might have a grooming session here. You might have a planning session here. You might have a discovery session. So that is really going to influence it. So again, to recap, a day in the life of a BA is very different depending on where they are in a certain project. Okay, and they can have up to, 1, 2 to 3 projects. You really have dealt around 2, depends on the size. But that is really it. So hopefully that helps give you guys a clear picture of a day in the life of a BA. So myself, real quickly, just talking about my own experiences, I'll get into the office around 9. I'll check my emails. After I check my emails and I respond to all of them, I'll go ahead and make sure I have my calendar with all the meetings I have for the day. I know what time my meetings are. And obviously, outside of just attending the meetings, I'm using the rest of the time to go ahead and work on wherever I'm in the project. So if I'm in the requirements gathering part, I'm going ahead and I'm taking down my notes of what questions I'm going to ask the stakeholders. Or if I'm writing the requirements, I'm going to go ahead and write my requirements, whether that's BRD or whether that's through user stories, okay? And so that is really going to be my entire day, obviously, and you'll have your lunch, whatnot, but that is really going to take up my entire day, and then I'll usually get out of the office around 5. So that really is a day in the life of a BA. So hopefully that gives you a better picture. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if it does. Leave a comment down below.
So any questions at this moment? Hello?
No, we are good.
You can,
Okay, great, no problem. So we understand, right? Now we've discussed quite a few other things like SDLCs, what we do as a BA with other teams and all, right? So this is all environmental. We're going to understand step by step and trying to be a better BA day by day. That's how the other, things help me as an BA. So I need to understand other mostly linguistic part of it. Mostly if somebody says, have you reviewed my test cases? So we need to understand what is a test case, how can I review it, and so on and so forth, and why I'm reviewing it. So these kind of environment factors we're going to start learning mostly from a next session. Before that, what we really want to do is have a look at things which we have learned till date. Okay, so I want you to act as a business analyst. We've seen how business analysts do what he does, and so on and so forth. So let's take a step back and try to think it through how business analysts work. We understood, right? Now we need to implement it. We need to try it out once, right? This is again a short workshop which we are going to do. Let's try to understand how we do it as an BA, how we work as an BA, or how me as an Ravindra Pandey, how me as an analyst is going to work. So what are the things I do? I need to create, I need to collect some vision, I need to collect some requirements, I need to create some use case diagram, I need to create an HLD, I need to create an SRS, whatever I have understood, right? We have all the arms and animation with us. Only we need to start thinking, we need to do a complete cycle as far as BA goes, and then we'll understand where am I falling short, what are the things I need from the organizations, from the quality processes, policies, from the client, how should I ask, how should I frame my questions to the clients, how should I frame my questions to the project manager to, leverage the SME of the world, COEs of the world. SMEs, subject matter experts. So I'm working on a vision mission of a, say a difficult project. So I might need, or I might leverage the help of SMEs and COEs which are there in the organizations. Okay, and I need to leverage that. How do I leverage that? That's what we're going to learn. Here onward. But let's try to understand. Let's try to collect what are the things we need to learn. We need to understand what are the support I can leverage from client and from the organization where I'm working also. Okay. For that, we need to do a cycle of requirement gathering, or cycle of building SRS, cycle of building use case diagram and HLD, and that's what we call business analyst workshop, right? So how do you do it? Let me to you. As the example, normally I was sharing with you, me analyst working at an Infosys, go to State Farm, which is an insurance company, talk to VPHR, his name, you can choose whatever you like, you can choose a product owner, name, you can choose anything. We discuss this thing with couple of meetings, so I'll have 1 minutes of meeting to support as an BRD. I'll have convert those visions, convert those discussions to requirement, and I create a minutes of meeting. I believe you have the template with you, otherwise please ask in the group. I'll share the template again with you, no problem. We create a system requirement specification, we create SRS. We have already shared the template, but I can share with you again, no problem. We create some use case diagram for one or two most critical functionalities which we've discussed, and then we'll create this SRS and PPT. We convert everything into Microsoft PowerPoint presentation and present it in a next session. Is it understood, or anybody have any doubts? Okay, one thing, this is what I give an example, but you can use your own vision. You can think of any problem where you want to create, you can create HLD, SRS and all. Please be my guest, and you can do on that. Like many participants last time, they did on their own thought processes, whatever they've come across as a new product, new vision, or even new Android app. If you want to create, you can have you can work on that. Okay, so let's try to find out, anybody have any confusion at this moment? Could you understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, but we would need a template actually. I don't.
You have the template. Otherwise, I'll send the template again. No problem.
Yeah,
I've shared those templates.
I didn't save anything. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'll say share this thing in a group. So I have to share this presentation. I'll share SRS template. I'll share minutes of meeting template. Is that fine?
Yes, please.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, sure. Anything else, ma'am?
I'm good.
Yeah, so you can use your own vision, you can use your own thought process, or you can use the State Farm Insurance example we are thinking. So what we are doing normally, me working at Infosys, my sales manager takes to meeting with the State Farm dignitary like the VPHR of Keshav and his couple of team members, and we discuss about enhancing the attendance management system for them. So they were using attendance management system with a attendance register, and a supervisor basically checking each and every photo ID, so that he'll make sure Ravindra Pandey is signing against his and her name only. So and so forth. Then we migrate this system to something like biometric, iris scanner, whatever you feel correct for your solution, and please include those things. Okay, so we need to understand, or rather we need to I need to review myself, how much I have learned, right? And I need to understand where I'm falling short, and where I have to put my more efforts. And that's what this exercise will share with us. So why are we doing this? We are trying to find out where my shortcomings as a personality, because yes, this is an artistic work. Still we have templates, still we have that, all those defined processes, but still there's a pretty much big amount of artistic efforts are involved, because I'm trying to convert one's thought process to requirements and then functionality, right? So for that, I need to clarify how the other person is thinking, what is his background, what the business actually needs, and so on and so forth. So there are lots of background, there are lots of precursors to whatever I'm trying to collect, right? So that's what you need to excel in, and that's how the business analysts are the most awarded people, believe me, because we work with new clients, new dignitaries, new very top management people, and that's how we need to leverage this thing, so that I can achieve more and more awards whenever I join as a business analyst. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion? Okay.
Sir, when we have to present this?
In the next session, or within next week, whenever you are ready.
Okay, next session will be today's on Friday. On Friday, we need to present this.
Let me open that clock for me. Next session will be today's Wednesday, right?
Yeah, on Friday.
Yeah, Friday. You can present it on Friday, well and good. If you can't, then on Monday, or we are going to have a session on Saturday as well. Sunday as well.
Okay. Okay.
So
sir,
you can present on Sunday also. Okay.
yes.
But just we need to understand, or rather you yourself need to understand how I can work as a BA, which is really crucial need. Okay, so you need to put some hours together. I know it's not very easy thing to do, because whatever we learn, whatever we discussed, I believe you have everything. But still, if you need anything, please message me on WhatsApp and we can get it sorted out, right? If you have a vision, what I'll suggest is give me a message and we'll have a coordination, because the vision has to be understood by you, and then we need to put it in these templates and put it in this format. So that's a kind of bit of understanding we need to do. Okay, and let's understand what are the different roles we might need to include. So one of them is sponsorer. Sponsorer is basically who is going to sponsor the project, who is going to sign the check for the Infosys from client from State Farm. Facilitator is basically persons like a sales manager, or like that VPHR, who have coordinated to set up that meeting, who basically coordinates for who is joining, who is not joining, who is allowed to talk, who is not allowed to talk, who is only there to take notes, and so on and so forth. And BA and scribe is basically that me person. I'm basically building, I'm collecting the result of these meetings with me. So scribe is basically I'm collecting the result. So I'll basically prepare the minutes of meeting, where everything is consolidated, everything is collected in a document. Okay, and then there are some timekeepers who basically keep track of how much time we are spending on this and that activities, and so on and so forth. Okay, then basically we need to understand the M and desired outcomes, emphasize in that vision. We need to understand the key stakeholders whom I should talk to, whom I should get the details from. Then facilitate those online meets, make the notes, make the minutes of meeting, develop the agenda, email them, get them on a call, get them to do a survey if they are in some a different country or different time zones. So I normally deploy those survey, get the outputs recorded, might be a voice call, might be a meeting recording, might be the server survey data, how can I collect, and those things. And then plan these sessions, invite, talk to them, perform this workshop, interviews, brainstorming, and all those session, whatever you believe are required to clarify the requirements, clarify the vision, and building this product overview, the HLD part of it, right? Those scenarios. And then we basically normally get a BRD, but whatever I've shared a list of functionality here, which you can include in your HRD also if you want to take this attendance management system for State Farm as a project. So I'll share this PPT with you. Let's go over with this point by point. So if you take this example, what we are trying to give them a touchless attendance system enhancement. So away from sign in, sign out process, and it's automatic. It should work around the clock. It should be available across the time zone. We can have Android apps, cell phone apps, mobile apps developed and deployed to them so that they don't have to dependent on the office for doing certain functionality. Then it should generate some monthly reports in Excel or CBS and email them to selected views HR by the computer system, by the solution itself, right? Then list management efforts. So it should be an efficient system. It should talk to the legacy system where I have previous data of record attendance and all those things. So I can include leave attendance management system. I can also include new employee registration by HR as well in this. So it depends on you, whatever you think as a solution. So rather than me giving my vision, this is what my vision as an artist, as a business analyst, I have collected this requirement and I'll include this in my HLD. And I might have one solution, I might have few solutions across these problems, like the way I've depicted in HRD, right? So it's your way of thinking, it's your way, it's your personality at play here, right? So you're going to do it. If you don't want to go with the attendance management system, please be my guest and try to build your own vision. So okay, you'll give a good idea, because it's your thought process. You are the artist, so you can do it much better if you think your process. I'm not trying to encourage or discourage you, but this is again, we need to try a couple of things, right? We need to let our brain play. Believe me, when you give a free hand to your brain, you can go up to you can go a long and qualitative way. So you can improve the whole exercise to another level itself, right? So let's see, and that's why we are doing it. We're trying to understand, and this is like kind of functionality at a glance which I have collected for an enhancement of an attendance management system. It can be from State Farm or for a university or for a college also. Okay, and there's another way of HLD also. This is a HLD which I took it from the net. So there are problems on a left hand side, solutions on the right side, and that's how I address each and every problem. So I'm trying to depict here my attendance management system enhancement solution is going to address all these 6 problems to 6 different solutions. Okay, could you understand that? So this can be my HLD.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this can be my HLD. Otherwise, I can do 2 big box and show arrows, or I can do something like that. So be my guest. Try to understand this thing, right? And then we'll have around 20 to 30 minute presentation by you whenever. Okay, these are the older days. Sorry, in the next session. Okay, and we do these things. We do these workshops so that we know where we stand, where we we need to address our own problem, and then we can keep building my business analysis better than day by day, and that's how I improve, right? So we need to have at least 2 use case diagram. The HLD must cover the complete systems and suggestion. SRS document, solution consideration, filling the template and include diagrams there. You need to present the showcase. So you need to create that Microsoft presentation template. You'll get 20 to 30 minutes to present that thing, right? And whenever you are ready, let me know. We'll have that presentation during our normal training as well. Okay. I'll share the templates with you for this. And then what is this? What the hell is this coming? Okay. Now, then we'll have, look at this scope creep in our next session. How the requirements get misleading, how we miss the requirements and those things. So whenever we do this workshop, this is what we're going to learn. So how the poor communication on project stakeholder or on analysis part, how it damages the overall project progress, how it skips the requirement. It's called scope creep or requirement creep, right? And we'll have a look at it whenever we're going to do this workshop on our own, right? So any question for me at this moment?
No, sir.
No, we're good.
I know it's a lot to take. So, let's close down early today, and I'll share these things with you so that you can start working on that. I'm sharing this big PPT with you now. So I have around 81 slides, and then I have another with 140 slides, but let's not go there. I'll share this thing with you so you can review all the things which we have learned. You can do a cut copy paste also, right? So that you don't have to really type it everything. If you are using your own vision, try to think it through. It's it's again your choice. Okay, so let's close down at this moment, and let's try to start on this. If you start fresh, you can start really early. Give me 10 minutes to share all these templates with you so that you can start working on it. Okay, does anybody have any question for me at this moment?
I'm good.
No, we are good.
Okay. It's not like end of the world. You can ask me on WhatsApp also. So please don't worry. Okay.
Okay.
So let's wind up
Thank
here.
you, sir.
Great. No problem. So have a good night and let's start working.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Ask me if you need anything from me.
No,
Thank you.
sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thanks a lot. Good night. Take care.